Hi, it's Leela, the proud Poly Kinky Queer Slut. I heard something very interesting yesterday that I want to share with you. This question was asked on a radio show I was listening to, and it was a different take than I'd heard before. So the question is, are people fundamentally good or are people fundamentally bad? And there are roots in this in philosophy, but also in conservative versus liberal political theory. And whether your approach to the world can be affected, and especially your approach to political theory can be affected by whether you think people are at their core good people who just need to have abuses and traumas and things taken off them in order to express that goodness, or if you think people are fundamentally bad people that need rules and regulations and controls in order to make them good. And, this goes back a long ways. I mean, 16th century philosophers were talking about this. But the idea that I heard on this radio show that I thought was very, very insightful was that perhaps it's not a dichotomy the way we think of it. Perhaps it's not either or. Either people are inherently good or inherently evil. The philosophers that wrote about this stuff, the philosophers who were more inclined to think that people were inherently bad were writing at times when people were in situations of desperation, when there was rampant poverty, when like England in the early days of the Industrial Revolution, when there was not a robust middle class, there were a lot of people really struggling to get their basic safety needs met. And those philosophers tend to think people are more inherently evil, whereas philosophers that tend to think people are more inherently good tend to have come from periods in history when there was a larger middle class, more people not struggling with basic survival needs, and more people with leisure time and safety. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs is instructive here. So that's a philosophy where it's basically a pyramid of needs. So you have your basic needs that are basic safety, security. Like you need food, water, shelter, and then you keep going up, like knowing you're not going to get harmed, knowing your family's safe, having emotional safety, and it's this pyramid. What this radio show postulated, and what I want to kind of push forward for you guys to think about is, perhaps when people's basic safety needs are threatened, they will do whatever it takes and with really very little thought and care for other people in order to get those basic needs met. But once a person's needs are met and their basic needs are met, most people inherently treat each other with respect and treat each other well and are generally good to each other. Not everybody. Certainly some people are outliers. This is a vast generalization. There are obviously people who take advantage of other people even if they are well off and have all the security needs met. But as a generalization, that was what was put forward. So you take a person, you put them in a situation where they're desperate for food or desperate for security in some way. They are more likely to act in what ways that we might generalize as evil. Whereas if you take that same person and put them in a situation where they've got their needs met and where they have emotional support and all of the food, water, shelter, medical care that they need, that they're much more likely to act as a good person. So just food for thought. I don't have any definitive answers on that, except that I do think that these things are more complicated than binary. We're either inherently good or inherently bad. I do think that there's a lot of gradient there, and I like to just think about it. So I'm posing this as just food for thought. Maybe it has more to do with circumstance than it does to have to do with inherent conditioning. And maybe inherent conditioning doesn't follow the ethical standards that we want to apply to it. So, yeah, something to think about. Thank you for listening. This is Leela, the proud Poly Kinky Queer Slut. I appreciate you listening. Remember, you can ask me anything at kinkyqueerslut@gmail.com. And have a great day.